Hi there, Fiona and Kate here from Core Confidence. And this week we're talking about self-belief and confidence and how do those two pieces fit together? What we've noticed in the challenge that we've been running with over 1,000 people now is that 80% of people talk about self-belief as being the issue that resonates the most in terms of their struggles around confidence.
Yeah, and I think this has been really interesting. It was certainly interesting for us. I think anecdotally, we probably knew it, but part of the challenge, you're assigned a coach, and so we check in, and there's conversations and questions that go back and forth over the course of the 10 days, and this piece around people citing when they think about their relationship with confidence, and perhaps where it's not where they would like it to be, the piece that resonates the most when we think about what does core confidence, or what does confidence look like, core confidence expressed. We go through a bunch of different elements, taking action, resilience, honesty, all of those sorts of things. But this piece about self-belief, having faith in who you are and backing yourself. And people referencing this piece around the self-talk, right? And, my self-belief on some level is my relationship with myself, my belief in who I am and what I'm capable of. And I think this one's really interesting as we look at the interplay, because on some level, Fee, you could almost say that, they could be held equally or, similarly, but I think it's interesting when we start to, and actually it was only through the results of the challenge that we started to delve a whole lot deeper into the interplay of self-belief and confidence.
Yeah, I think the self-belief piece, there's so much here that is deeply personal. It's tied up in who we think we are, what we think about ourselves. Our whole identity, to some degree, hooks into whether I believe I can do something or whether I believe I can't. And this notion of the stories we tell ourselves and the things that we make true in our mind are very often undermining of our confidence. And so, this piece about how do I examine and really look at what are the characteristics of my self-belief and how might this be getting in the way of me showing up and actually doing the things I would love to do in my world.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that's come out as we've started to unpack what is self-belief and our sources of self-belief, which has been really interesting. As you said, absolutely deeply personal, comes, from our formative years and our whole life experience. But I think it's interesting for each of us to really think about, when I think about my relationship with myself and my sources of self-belief, and perhaps, when I feel like I've got really strong belief in who I am, and perhaps when I feel like I don't feel as strong in myself and my own self-belief as what I'd like, is what's different, like what's going on, particularly, I think there's value in looking at both in those moments when I'm feeling really strong, and those moments where perhaps I'm feeling a little bit less weak, and noticing what's different. And I think in my experience, often when we're feeling weaker or lower self-belief, it's a function of we're listening to stories outside. We're amplifying negative feedback. Perhaps we have, we're worried about what people will think, or someone's looked at us weird, and we dive into, and we know the human brain, right? We're so wired around safety, and so when there's signals that we're receiving, which is I'm unsafe, we immediately go to ourselves. It's the piece where one of your boss says, oh hey, Kate, have you got 5 minutes? I just want to catch up at 12 just to discuss something. And immediately the brain goes to, oh my god, what have I done wrong? We don't go, oh wow, I've done all this wonderful thing and they just want to chat with me and tell me I'm fantastic. We immediately go to the negative. So I think it's really useful. I think self-belief is on some levels a little bit like how we got drawn into the work on confidence, right? Which was, we were there having conversations with clients and was like, well, what is confidence anyway? And that's opened the doorway to this whole piece of work on confidence. And I think self-belief on some level is a little bit similar. And there is a whole piece of personal work for us to do there around understanding our sources, our drivers, and some of the habits and patterns we've got that really tear down some of that self-belief.
Yes, yeah. I think this, as we examine what's going on and as we become more conscious and we can see the patterns in the way that we do things, there's lots of really valuable intel. And that example you just gave, it's really interesting to notice somebody says something to me that's actually quite neutral. And do I actually contract? Do I actually go into a sort of fear space? Am I worried about the worst thing that can happen? Or do I actually kind of lean forward and go, oh, wow, maybe we're going to talk about a new opportunity and something new that's going to come up for me. And every one of these little moments is in a way a very valuable piece of information that we can use, and we can see where we're actually undermining our own sense of self, our self-belief, and our ability to do things and to try new things, or even to be considered for new things, will be very much a function of what we're telling ourselves moment by moment with what's happening around us. And I'm really encouraging people to get curious about ourselves and to think about, oh, how could I do this differently? And how can I bring more consciousness around what's going on so that it's not just a default pattern playing out when something happens? I don't escalate or go into that place of negativity simply because that's what I've always done, or my fears are activated, or that sort of thing. I actually get curious and I start saying, well, we love the work of Brené Brown, because she says things, one of the big things to look at when something's not where you'd like it to be is, so what's the story I'm telling myself here? What's the story? And then, is there any evidence for that? Is that actually reality? So that piece about, oh, I've decided that I'm going to be reprimanded or something bad's going to happen. Did anything happen around me to give me any clue that that was the direction this was going in? And as we catch ourselves in those moments by moment, we get the chance to reframe and to do something different.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is the reframe and creating additional possibility. That's what I love about, and I use that technique all the time, particularly when I'm triggered, or particularly when I can see myself going down a rabbit hole. What's the story I'm telling myself? And immediately, just that process of almost externalizing the thought forces you to look at the assumptions or the beliefs that you're attaching into and go, oh, what, maybe there's another possibility, and just that unhooks it a little bit. And exactly what you were saying, this piece around doing something differently. That's what, Small Acts of Confidence, our Acts of Confidence program is all about. It's about taking small steps and doing small things differently that provide the evidence that will reinforce the self-belief as well. And so that's a conversation we're going to be having all month, digging into self-belief. If you've got comments, questions, we'd love to hear from you on this topic, how it plays out for you, what your sources are. Please drop us a note below, or feel free to send us a direct message. And of course, if you've enjoyed this confidence conversation or any of the other ones, we'd love for you to share it with your network and post comments below. And of course, if you want to go deeper with your relationship with Core Confidence, visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au.